Hey, I'm Holly Andrews, integrative nutrition health coach and stress recovery coach. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the kitchen. It is October, and to me, that means all things pumpkin. So for the entire month of October, all of my recipes here on the channel are going to have pumpkin in them. And today's recipe, we're kicking off this month of pumpkin with my Flourless Chocolate Pumpkin Cookies. They are flourless, obviously using almond flour, etc. So they're gluten-free, but they are super chocolatey, super rich, really fudgy, and just kind of a perfect sweet treat. So let's talk about what's in these cookies. Obviously, we've got pumpkin, and I love pumpkin because it is just so full of nutritious goodness. So pumpkin is packed with fiber, it's packed with vitamin A, it's packed with potassium and antioxidants. So you're just getting all of that goodness in a cookie. So how awesome is that? We've also got some cocoa powder, we've got fiber, we've got almond flour for healthy fat and a little bit of protein. You can substitute oat flour. I chose to stick with almond flour here, but you can certainly use oat flour or a mixture of both. If you are celiac and really need it to be certified gluten-free, make sure you're using certified gluten-free oat flour if that's the way that you're gonna go with this recipe. And so we've got no refined sugars, no refined flours here. It's naturally sweetened. I'm using my favorite maple syrup here to sweeten this cookie. We've got healthy fats and a little bit of protein from the almond flour, and we've got almond butter here as well. So both of those coming together, and I am using an organic almond butter. So it is just ground almonds and a little bit of salt. So that's it, nothing additional, nothing extra. And then we've got the fiber and the minerals from the pumpkin. And so they turned out amazingly, and they're super fudgy and rich. So let's talk about making these cookies. So to make these cookies, I just threw everything into a mixing bowl, and I will tell you that aside from the can of pumpkin, the recipe calls for 1 can of pumpkin. I do not like the recipes where it calls for like 3 tablespoons of pumpkin, and then you're like, well, what do I do with the rest of this pumpkin? But that said, you can save the pumpkin for the recipes that are coming down the pike this month. Not all of the recipes will be easy like this, and just use 1 can of pumpkin. So stay tuned for more pumpkin recipes, but 1 can of pumpkin. And then I got out, when I'm baking, especially gluten-free or flourless, I weigh my ingredients instead of measure them with a measuring cup, unless it's something like, baking soda or the vanilla. Those things I used measuring spoons for. But when it comes to ingredients like the cocoa powder and the almond flour and anything like that, I actually weigh those ingredients out. I find that it makes it much more precise, and I get a better end result, especially with the gluten-free baking, when I weigh those ingredients. So I broke out my scale, and you will notice in the recipe on the blog post, it has the standard, 3/4 a cup of this or half a cup of that, but then I also give you how much you need in grams. So I just set my scale to grams and used that to indicate how much of each item I needed to do that. So I got my pumpkin in, and then I added in my almond butter. I had a fresh jar of almond butter that I warmed up in the microwave, and to make sure it was nice and melty and I could incorporate it easily. So definitely a tip there, if you're using the natural almond butters or natural peanut or seed butters that you need to stir up and stir together, you definitely want to warm those up so that you can get them nice and blended and that they will pour and mix easily. If this was like in a solid form, I would not have been able to mix up this cookie dough. So added in the melted, the warmed up melted almond butter, added in my maple syrup, my cocoa powder. Now, I don't know what happened, but I could not find the standard Hershey's cocoa powder in my grocery store. It was like it did not exist. So I wound up with Ghirardelli cocoa powder, and it is a little bit intense. So that's fine. I like dark chocolate. I like intense flavors like that, but just beware. You might want to go with the regular Hershey's cocoa powder if you can find it. So good luck to you there. I could not. It was like they just did not exist in my store. To all of that, I added my almond flour and my baking powder, and I did choose to use the optional ingredients here. So that was a couple teaspoons of vanilla extract, half a teaspoon of salt, and then half a cup of, I have allergen-friendly mini chocolate chips. So I got that all blended up together until it made a nice cookie dough. And then I did decide to add in an extra 1/4 cup of almond flour. I just felt like the mixture wasn't doughy enough, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I did go ahead and add in an extra 1/4 cup of the almond flour. If you use oat flour, you may not need that. So just use your best judgment. But once the mixture was stirred together, mixed together nicely, I covered it in plastic wrap and then popped it in the fridge. You'll need to pop it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. I actually went off and went to lunch, so it was in my fridge for a little bit longer than that, but let it chill for at least 30 minutes and then you can start, putting it on your baking sheet. So once the mixture was chilled, I came back, I set my oven to 350 degrees, and then I got my cookie sheets ready. So I have these awesome cookie sheet liners. They're silicone liners from King Arthur's Flour that kind of tell you exactly where you need to drop cookie dough depending on how many you're making, the size of your cookies, etc. So you want to use about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more of your cookie batter per cookie. So I also have a great tablespoon cookie scoop, so it was really easy for me to do this. I just grabbed my cookie scoop, that's a tablespoon, scooped out some dough, plopped it on right where it needed to go onto my silicone mat. And so once the oven was ready, I did flatten out the tops of the cookies, the cookie dough just a little bit, because these are not really going to spread too much. So I did flatten out the top just a little bit before I popped them in the oven. But I popped them in the oven for 12 minutes at 350. And I wound up with 24 cookies total out of this batch. So they turned out so good. Like I showed you before, they are really lovely, fudgy cookies. And I cannot wait to share these with you guys. I hope that you make them and enjoy them. So as always, you can check me out on all the socials at Holly Andrews Coaching for more tips and tricks and support and encouragement when it comes to stress and recovering from stress and handling stress. You can always check out my website. I've just recently launched my online wellness community that does have a free component to it. So check that out, join the community. You'll get some free resources, including some of my favorite recipes. And speaking of recipes, I am launching my recipe club. I'm about to drop 10 new recipes into my recipe vault on the community for the month of October. These are exclusive to the club membership. You won't see them here on my YouTube channel or on my blog posts. So if you love these recipes and you want more of them, you can look for the membership information here in just a little bit, just a couple of days. I'm going to be launching this in the beginning of October, and I'm really excited about it. You can also, of course, check out my one-on-one coaching program or my online course that also just launched. All of that is in my online community. So be sure to grab the link and check all of that stuff out. And until next time, I'm Holly Andrews, and I believe that you can heal your stress from the inside out.